Alright guys, so our back end is pretty much done. We can do CRUD functionality through our API. We can create, read, update, and delete items. Now I'm going to build a front end using HTML, JavaScript, and Jquery. Alright, we're using Jquery to make Ajax requests to our API. So what I'm going to do is go to my htdocs folder, which is the root of my web server, and I'm just going to create a folder here, and I'm going to call it Item Manager. Alright, and then inside here we're just going to create an index.html file. Alright, and this is the only file that we're going to need. Actually, you know what? I don't think I have extensions enabled on this Windows machine. Let's see, I need to go to let's see, where is it? Options, change folder and search options. If you're using Windows, I would highly suggest that you do right here, hide extension for known file types. You want to uncheck that and then apply. And you can see that it actually had a txt extension. So we'll just get rid of that. Make sure it's an HTML file. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and just bring this into Atom. Or go like that. And let's see, we're going to put some base HTML tags in here. For the title, I'll just say Item Manager. And then as far as style, I'm going to use Bootstrap, but I'm going to use a customized version from Bootswatch. Alright, if we go to bootswatch.com, I'm going to grab the simplex design here and just click download. And I'm just going to grab the CSS link right here. Alright, and then we'll just put that right in a link tag. So right here. Alright, and then we'll have Bootstrap. So we're also going to need Jquery. So let's look up Jquery CDN. Alright, and I'll just grab 1.x uncompressed. And we just want to grab this script tag right here. Copy it and put it right above the ending body tag. Alright, and then we'll put our script tags right here. Alright. So with Jquery, we have to first of all say document.ready, and then in here put a function. So this is going to check to make sure the page is ready before it runs this function. And then once it is ready, let's do an alert 1 just to test. Okay, so now if we go to localhost / item manager, oops, spelled that wrong. Still spelled that wrong. And there we go, it gives us an alert 1. Good. So let's get rid of the alert, and then we'll start to build out our interface up here. So I'm going to use a nav bar just to kind of make it look good. So I'm going to go to getbootstrap.com and go to getting started and then examples, and then this starter template. I'm going to click on that and then do a Control U to see the source code, and we're going to grab this nav tag right here. Alright, we'll put that right in here. And let's see, I'm going to get rid of the navbar fix top class, and then I'm going to change the project name right here to Item Manager. And then as far as links, we're just going to have a home link. It's going to be a single page application. So we'll set that to just slash, and then actually, yeah, and then we'll just get rid of this active class. Alright, so let's see what that looks like. Okay, there's our nav bar. It looks different because we're using Bootswatch. We're not using the regular Bootstrap theme. Now we want to fetch data from our API. We want to grab the items and output them here. So in our HTML, what I'm going to do is first of all put a div with the class. We're going to put the class of container, and then in here I'm going to put a UL, and I'm going to give this an ID of items. Okay, this is where they're going to be put into dynamically. Okay, we're not going to put anything in here in the HTML. And then I'm also going to give it a class, a Bootstrap class of list group. Alright, so we want to fetch the data from the API and then use jQuery and JavaScript to insert them into here as list items. Alright, so let's go down to our script, and we're going to create a function called getItems. Alright, and this is going to get items from API. Alright, I'm going to make this a little bigger for you guys. Alright, so we want to make an Ajax request, and there's a few different ways to do it with jQuery. We're going to use the Ajax function. Okay, so we want to do $.Ajax, and then this is going to take in an object, so we want to put in some curly braces, and then you want to specify the URL that you want to make the request from, which in our case is going to be http://item/api.dev/api/items. Okay, that's where we set it to. Alright, and then down here, this is actually asynchronous, so we need to add on to the end here .done, and then once that is finished, it's going to call a function. Alright, and that function is going to include our data, which I'm going to call items. Okay, so let's do console.log. Oops. We'll say console.log items. And let's open up the console here with F12. And I actually want that down the bottom. Let's see. I haven't used it on the side forever. Where is it? Right here. Okay. So if we go to console and we reload, nothing's happening because we need to actually call this getItems function. So let's go right here at the top and we'll say getItems. Alright, so if we reload, we're going to get this error that says no access control allow origin. Basically what's happening is it's seeing that we're trying to make a request to a different domain than we're on. So it's giving us this error. Now there's a few ways to get around this. What we're going to do is we're going to enable something called cores on our server, and that's going to allow these requests to come in even if they're from a separate domain. So there's a couple ways to enable cores in Laravel. I'm going to use a package. So let's see, we're going to say Laravel cores package, and it's this one right here. Alright, this Barry VDH/Laravel cores. All we have to do is install it with Composer, and then we're going to add this to the middleware. Alright, and then we'll no longer get that error. So let's open up Commander or whatever you're using for your terminal, and let's see, we're going to just grab this right here and we'll paste that in, install that, and then we're going to copy this right here. Okay, so this is going to go into our config app.php file on our Laravel website. Alright, we'll just wait for that to finish. Alright, that's all set. Now let's go to Laravel and we're going to go into config app.php, and we want to go down to the providers, which starts here, and we're going to put this right here. We'll paste that in. Alright, so now let's go back to our front end and reload. Okay, that still didn't work. Why didn't that work? Let's go back to the documentation here. So we installed it. No. Oh. Did I put the right thing in there? Let's go back down here. Alright, so I put that. Okay, so the last thing we need to do here is grab this and put it into our middleware. Okay, and this is going to be in app http kernel.php. So that's where is it? http kernel.php, and we're going to stick that right in here. Is that correct? Service, yeah, and then let's see. Did I do it right here? Service provider. Alright, so let's save kernel. and then hopefully that works. Let's go back and reload, and now you can see it's actually fetching our objects from the back end. Alright, cores enables us to do that, even though we're on a separate domain. Alright, so obviously we want to do more than just console log the items. We want them to display over here. So let's get rid of this. And what I'm going to do is create a variable called output. I'm going to set it to nothing by default. And then we need to loop through the items because it's an array. And then we want to add each one, we want to append onto this variable. So to loop through, I'm going to use a Jquery each loop. Alright, so we're going to say each, pass in the items, which are being passed back to us from our API. And then we're going to have a function. Alright, and that's going to give us in two attributes. We have the key and then the value, which I'm just going to call item. Okay, so we'll have access to each item individually. So now we want to take that output variable and we want to append to it with plus equals. Alright, and then we're going to use backticks right here. And this allows us to basically put in HTML here and use multiple lines. We don't have to concatenate or anything like that. Alright, just make sure you use the backticks, not quotes. The backtick is to the left of the number 1 key. Alright, and then in here we're going to put an li. It's bootstrap, so we're going to say class list group item. Alright, and then let's see, we'll close that up. Oops. And then in here, let's put some strong tags. And we'll put the item text. Now when you want to put in a variable in a template string, you can use the money sign and then curly braces. And then we should be able to get item, which is coming from here. And remember, it's an object, so we want the text part of it. Alright, so we can say item.text. And we'll put a colon here and a space, and then over here we'll put in the body, so we can say text.body. Alright, and then so far we're just building this output variable. Now we want to output it. So remember in the HTML we put a UL, where is it? UL with the ID of items. So we want to append onto that. So make sure you're outside of the each loop, which ends right here. And then we're going to use Jquery and we're going to grab the ID of items and then do .append and then just put in our output variable. Alright, and that should do it. Let's save, go back and reload. Text is not defined. Why is text not defined? Each items, function, key item, item.text. Wait a sec. Oh. This is item.body. There we go. So now this is outputting whatever is in our database and our Laravel application. Okay, we're accessing it through the API that we built. All right, so this is kind of a big deal. This is a really good good project to know how to do these things, because that's what's big right now is RESTful APIs. All right, so in the next video I'm going to show you how we can actually insert items through the front end through our back end API. All right, so I will see you in the next video. All right, guys, we're now fetching data through the front end application using our API. Now what we're going to do is make it so that we can add to the database as well through our HTML, JavaScript, and Jquery app. So I'm going to go to my index.html and we're going to create a form up here. So let's go right above the UL and I'm going to put in an H1 and we'll just say add item, and then let's put in a form with the ID of item form. Alright, and then in here let's put a div, and I'm going to give this a class of form group. Okay, and then in here we'll put a label, and this will be text, and then an input. Okay, it's going to have the type of text. We don't need a name, we're going to do an ID of text. And let's see, we don't need a value either, but we're going to put a class in called form control. Alright, and then we'll just copy this div group or this form group, and then this is going to be the body. Okay, and it's going to be a text area, so we can replace the input type. Okay, and then the ID will be body, class form control, and now we need an ending text area tag as well. All right, and then we want to do our submit. So let's say input type is going to be submit, and let's see, value, we'll just say submit. Okay, let's save it and reload, and now we have a form. Let's actually put an HR tag under the form, and let's give the submit button a class of btn and btn primary. There we go. So now what we need to do is we need to catch the submit event for this form, and we're going to do that using Jquery. So let's go down here and let's say submit event. Okay, remember we gave the form an ID of item form, and then we want an event, so we're going to do on submit. We're going to run a function. Alright, and we're going to pass in e here, and then we're going to say e.prevent default, and that'll prevent the form from actually trying to submit to a file. Okay, now we need to get the text and the body that's filled in the form. So let's create a variable called text, and we're going to set this to Jquery and the ID of text, and then we want the value, so .val, and then do the same thing for the body. Okay, so body.val. Alright, so now that we have that, we're going to run this through a function called add item. Alright, so add item will take in text and body. So now we need to create that. So right down here, we'll say insert items using API. Okay, so function add item. And again, that's going to take in the text and the body. Alright, so let's see what we want to do. We want to make another Ajax request just like we did here. So let's say moneysign.ajax, pass in an object, and this is going to take in, we're going to specify the method, which is going to be post this time. Alright, and then the URL, which will be HTTP, and that's going to be item api.dev/API/items. Okay, and we want to also send along some data. Okay, that's going to be an object, and we're going to say text, which will come from the text that's passed in. Same thing with the body. Alright, and then we want to do this .done, so this will run when it's finished, and let's see, we're going to pass in a function, and that's going to pass back the item that gets inserted. Alright, so then we'll just do an alert, and let's say item number, and then we can actually get the item ID that's passed back, and then we'll just concatenate added. So it'll say item 2 added or whatever. Alright, then we need to reload the page so that it shows up in our list right here. So to do that, we're just going to say location dot reload. Alright, so let's save that, and then let's give it a shot. So we'll say let's do item 4, this is item 4, and submit. Item number 4 added, click OK, and it reloads, and there it is. Alright, so we're now inserting data through our API. So the last thing we're going to do is delete. Okay, so I'm going to add a delete link on each one of these. Okay, now remember, it's not in the HTML up here, it's down here being generated right here. Alright, so let's add on, let's see, we'll go right here and put an A tag. It's going to go nowhere. but we need to add a class, and let's give it a class of delete link. Actually, let's do delete link. All right, and then we need a way to access the ID. All right, so what we'll do is we'll use a data attribute. So we'll say data-id, and we're going to set that. Remember, we're using a template string, so we can use this syntax to put in a variable. So we'll say item.id, and then the text will just say delete. All right, so let's save that and take a look. Good. So now we want to grab onto the event when we click these. So let's go back up here, and let's see. We'll go right here, and we'll say delete event. Okay, so remember it has a class of, actually, you know what? Since the markup is being generated here, if we just do .on and then, or if we do delete link on click, it's not going to work. What we have to do is delegate it. So we're going to say body, okay, body.on, and then in here, let's see, in here is where we want to put first the event type, which is click, and then the element, the delete element, which is delete link, or .delete link, and then we have our function. All right, so let's see, we're going to pass in e and then do e.prevent default. And let's just test this out and do a console.log, and we'll just say delete. So if we go over here and click that, and it's not working. Oh, right here, this is wrong. It should be like that. There we go. So now here you're seeing delete. Now we want to grab the ID, and remember we put the ID in a data attribute right here, so we want to access that. So the way that we can do it is by saying, actually I'm going to put this in a variable. We'll say let ID equals, and we can use this, which refers to the current element that's being clicked, and then we'll say .data and ID. Okay, and then let's console log ID. Go back over here, reload. Okay, you see 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so that's sending along the ID. Now what we want to do is call a function. I'm going to replace this with a function called delete item. All right, and then we're going to create that right here. So we'll say delete item through API. So function delete item, okay, takes in the ID, and then we just want to make another request just like we did here. Let's copy this. Okay, now remember, we're not going to do delete like that, because with Laravel we actually want to send it as a post request, and then we want to send along, we can get rid of this, we want to send along underscore method and set that to delete. All right, and then we'll just alert item removed, and then we'll reload. All right, actually we need to pass on to the URL the ID, so slash, and then we'll just concatenate on the ID. All right, so let's go and reload. Let's go to item 4, click delete. We get item removed, we click OK, and it's gone. All right. So I'm going to leave it here, guys, and if you want to try to add on update functionality, you can go ahead and do that. What I would suggest is putting an edit link, catching the click, and then inserting the content into the form so that you can update it. All right, so that, I guess you kind of have a little homework assignment. All right, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next project.